What's up, everybody? You know what we've been dealing with this week. We just got the big fight done yesterday, the highly anticipated rematch in Abu Dhabi, the main event, Makhachev versus Volkanovski. Now you've been waiting for the co-main event. Costa's hurt. You know, all the rumors that are flying around. We got it done. So, the number 4 welterweight in the world, Khamzat Chimaev, is moving up the middleweight, and he will face the number 1 welterweight in the world, Kamaru Usman. So, number 1 versus number 4 at middleweight. Usman versus Chimaev.
Best sport in the world, man. In what other league, in what other sport could something like this happen where one of the biggest events of the year gets totally flipped upside down? And not only did the main event and the co-main event have fighters pull out, they both got better. I think most people are in agreement that both Volkanovski and Kamaru Usman are way more exciting fights for Islam and Khamzat. So this just boosted me up. I feel like the whole world's been buzzing about it. People were talking to me about it today that usually don't even talk about MMA. That's when you know it's a big deal. What was your reaction when you first saw everything? It was last night right before bed.
Yeah, everything just like, I don't know. It's so fast, like, especially now, like you said, how like obviously like our close friends and people just know how big we are in the UFC, and then people just like a lot of people just text me like, what does this mean? Explain, like, and then people like you obviously who know UFC, friends who like UFC know UFC, like, damn, like who do you like? What's gonna happen? Like, it's just, it all happened so fast. It felt like I was like never gonna get to bed. It felt like I was working or something, but nah, bro, it's just. Again, just best sport in the world. There's nothing I can't. So like when people who are like that I know from like a basketball sense or like ask me to like explain it, you can't really put it into words, because like you can explain the fight, you can explain Volkanovski going up, but you just can't explain the magnitude of in which he's doing it and the magnitude of which it happens. Like, I don't know, you can't just be like, oh, the Chiefs and Bengals games got canceled, now they're playing the Bills. Like, that's not how it works. Like, you know, like, it's just, and this is why we love that shit. Like, and this is why, like, one of those things, like, yeah, it's a great fight. If they had a year to prepare, it's a great fight. But the fact that you add all this in, I don't remember a time like this. I'd probably say, because I was thinking today, like, moments like this, I'd probably say the last moment I felt like this kind of was when Masvidal fought Usman in Abu Dhabi in Fight Island during the COVID shit, when he came in late notice. That was kind of probably it, but still, like, that was just kind of like no one really gave him a chance. It was just kind of the magnitude, but yeah, there's a lot to unpack. Not to be okay. So to the counterpart of this, I don't want to be a negative guy about it, but I wish we could have seen these two fights with full camps. That's the only downfall when stuff like this happens, is like, yeah, I don't know. Because then it's like, we never really know who won the Islam and Volk the first fight. People go different ways. So now it's like, okay, if Islam wins, well, Volk have a full camp. Chimaev wins. It depends on the way in which I think those fights go. I think if they go out and steamroll, I don't think it would have mattered. But yeah, I think the Volkanovski fight is huge, because I don't like that for him. I think it's a bad matchup for him coming in on 11-day notice. He's hurt, obviously, just got surgery, was supposed to wait. And then for Kamaru, I actually like it for Kamaru better than Volk. I would say today, if you ask me who has a better chance to pull off the upset, I might say Kamaru. Just off the fact that I think the style doesn't change. And just the pressure in which Islam's going to put on Volk, that's just hard to prepare for in 10, 11 days.
I agree.
Yeah, so it's just...
Last time Volk fought Islam, he talked about how he was bulking up for months. It felt like almost half a year that he was changing his diet, changing his training habits, changing everything to be an optimal 155er. And now he's been going back down to featherweight. His last fight was at featherweight, so he's kind of transformed back into a featherweight. So obviously the weight cut's not going to be hard for him, but he might be even a little bit smaller than he was in that first Islam fight.
Yeah.
And he had that elite grappling camp last time with Craig Jones, just putting him in the worst possible situations for months and months and months. His cardio was top notch, as it always is. And on 11 days' notice, I mean, there's no way that all of that could be quite at that level.
Yeah. And I also think 11-day notice is hard enough, but 11-day notice in Abu Dhabi. I mean, Sugar had to go to Abu Dhabi 21 days before. Like it just adds it's a lot. It's a lot. I think the biggest thing here we took from this, or the biggest, like, I don't think anyone's really talking about much, is the fact that Dana said the winner of Kamaru and Hamzat gets the title shot. That's big. That's not being talked about enough. That's big. So the winner in this is definitely Hamzat, because he goes from fighting Costa to what just would have been a fight. I mean, I think if he would have went out in convincing fashion, I think he could have made a case for the title. To go out to fighting Kamaru Usman, and again, Kamaru's not no easy dub, but on 11-day notice, you take your chances with that, and you're cemented a title shot if you win. I think the winner in this is Hamzat.
Yeah. Do you think that Kamaru was already planning on going up to middleweight, or do you think that all of this was just such a last minute thing? They called him, said, "Hey, we know you won't have to cut weight for this as much as the other middleweights will. No one's really accepting it."
I think it
Because
was. Go ahead.
does Kamaru go back down to welterweight and take a welterweight title shot after this, or is he just planning on staying up at middleweight?
I don't think so, because I think if Leon wins, Kamaru doesn't get another title shot. You don't do 4.
Yeah.
If Kobe wins, you don't really do that either. So like, I think he was kind of just stuck at 70. So I think 85 was definitely in the plans, especially when they kind of figured out that what they weren't going to really give Izzy another shot, because we know that Kamaru tested before they don't want to fight each other. But I think once Sean Strickland was cemented at 85 champ, then this all went down. I think it was just time to go. I do think 85 was definitely in the plans, but now, I mean, it's Kamaru. You throw Kamaru in that 85 division, I still think he's Kamaru Usman at the end of the day. I still think it's I like. I mean, but then does he beat Hamzat? I don't know. So it's tough. I got to sneak in an Izzy question. So do we get Izzy and Driscus on like a non-title fight?
I think it makes sense. Why not, right? I mean, that's what they both wanted before everything kind of went sideways, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great fight to make, and then the winner gets the title shot right after that. It kind of works itself out,
Yeah.
and people do forget that Usman does have a win over Sean Strickland back when Sean Strickland was down at welterweight. Usman beat him pretty handedly. So it would be a rematch. Usman has that one win under his belt.
Yeah. I think
you
this
could
is
build that
super
up.
big. This is super big for the 85 division, because it adds life without it. As much as I hate to say it, they're kind of starting a life without Izzy at 85, because you have a major fight obviously here, this coming up with Hamzat and Usman, and then the winner of that one's a major fight either way. I think Kamaru trying to get the 85 belt's a big fight, and then Hamzat and Strickland, that would just be insane. So as much as I hate to say it, I still think that they're preparing for life without Izzy. But then also, I think that what's not being talked about is we can end up getting that Hamzat and Izzy matchup that we so much wanted to see. Obviously, it's on different circumstances. Crazy how it ended up, but we can still get that. He beats Kamaru, he beats Sean, Izzy beats Driscus. We get that fight at 85. I would imagine Izzy's one fight away from getting the title.
Yeah, man. Whole new life in middleweight, and we forget that Bo Nichols just waiting around as well. Obviously, he's not quite up in that top contender flight just yet. I was kind of thinking, imagine how crazy it would be if they gave Bo a call and Bo hopped on a plane over to Abu Dhabi. I can't lie, dude. Kamaru wasn't even on my radar. I guess because it's easier to have a guy who doesn't have to cut as much weight, and it's a huge fight.
I don't think if this fight card isn't in Abu Dhabi, there's not much. I don't think we see these fights, and I don't think they make the replacements that they do.
I completely agree. I was thinking the same thing once the pullouts were starting to form. I was like, bro, the UFC's gotta come up with something because they promise every year that the Abu Dhabi card is going to be a huge one.
Yeah.
They saved Islam for a whole year for this card. They've been saving Hamzat for it. So they had to get both of those guys big fights over there in Abu Dhabi. Yeah, like if this was in the T-Mobile Arena, they would have been plenty happy just getting some 7 to 12 ranked guys to fill in. But this boosts the pay-per-view buys by a lot because I mean, Islam Volk too, and then I think even Hamzat Usman, if that was a main event of a card, people would be okay with that just because they're both such huge names. Usman's a former pound for pound number one. Dude, we've got 3 people that have held the number 1 pound for pound ranking on this card.
That is,
Volk, Islam, and Kamaru. That's pretty insane, man.
Yeah.
And the fact that 2 of these guys just took it on 11 days notice, like they have a lot to lose compared to somebody that hasn't quite made their name.
That's what I'm saying. I think what's crazy is like usually we get guys like this who like need the fight or they have to take it. Like these 2 guys don't need that fight. And I think that's what's even more impressive. I think if Volk pulls this off, he might be the greatest UFC fighter of all time.
I've been saying that, man. He's going to be, he already is undeniable, but at that point, this would be the greatest victory of all time. I think for sure. His last one might have been as well if he did pull it off.
One thing also to point out is that 3 rounds might help Usman.
Yeah, just because I think in a normal setting, Usman would want it to be 5 rounds because his cardio is one of his best weapons, and Hamzat's been known to tire out. But in this case, Usman hasn't had a full camp, so I think he might go full throttle all 3 rounds. I think he still has the capability to do that. He hasn't been in a 3-round fight in forever, so it's going to feel not easy to him, but a lot better than 5 rounds, I'm sure. And one more thing with Volk, he was going to get this fight anyway.
Yeah,
even if he waited, as long as he beat Topuria, he was going to get this Islam fight. So it's not like this was his one opportunity. But if he loses this fight, he's not going to get it again.
Yeah, that bag had to be big.
That's what I was thinking. They threw some big, big money at him. Maybe the rich people over there in Abu Dhabi even opened up the pocketbook a little bit.
Maybe that money they saved from getting rid of USADA.
What? Yeah, the fact that this might not have even been the biggest news in terms of the UFC as a whole.
Yeah.
Some other breaking news. You touched on it earlier, but USADA released a press release, I guess that's what you call it, stating that on January 1st of 2024, USADA and the UFC will no longer be working together. They will not be renewing their contract. It was looking like they were going to renew it, and then this McGregor stuff started to come up. Rogan called out USADA, said he thinks they'd be better off without it. You've heard other fighters coming out and saying that it's not that hard to get around. You heard Bobby Green saying that they can't even test the guys in Russia. So there's just been a lot of controversy lately with it. They go and knock on fighters' doors at any time of the day. So no more USADA. I think everyone's reaction at first is, does that just mean people are going to be juiced to the gills?
Yeah.
And I really don't have the answer yet. I was looking around. I'm sure they're going to find a new anti-doping agency.
There's a lot of questions. I guess I would say the first thing is we were right all along saying how the UFC wanted to do Conor in December and they were going to say, fuck USADA. And USADA was basically like, no. Which makes me also think like if USADA was employed by the UFC, why couldn't they step in and say, no, Conor's going to fight?
I think
so. That's a question I have too.
It wasn't like they were working for him, but it was like I guess like how the NBA, I guess they probably could control their refs. But
Yeah,
like,
no, I get it though. I get it though. Like you hire me to do good. You hire me to do good. I got to do good. Um,
yeah,
I guess this also just shows the UFC's loyalty to Conor McGregor. I guess now I think it even further cements that this fight has to happen. I would say because
100%.
you put all your eggs in one basket. Um, I don't think obviously everyone's first instinct is like, oh, they're gonna stop. They're gonna be on steroids and shit. Um, I think, and I don't know how the steroid shit works. I don't know what and I don't know. Does like the NBA and shit? Do they use like USADA or no?
I don't think so. I haven't really heard. I've never heard
So, yeah,
USADA come up in any of the other
they probably
sports
just do their.
agencies,
They
but
probably just,
maybe.
the league probably does it themselves.
I was gonna say, I'm sure the commissions will test fight week,
Yeah,
fight month, but fighters could still cycle on, cycle off.
yeah.
If they're
So
not
that's
being tested all the time.
we need to find an expert on this, but I would say like so. My initial thought is like the UFC itself is gonna drug test themselves. But then I think in my head, like you get a situation like John Jones and Daniel Cormier in UFC 200, they get a dirty test from John Jones. If they're controlling it and they know it, do they let that fight go on? 100%.
They're not gonna throw. They're not gonna throw away millions of dollars just
Yeah.
for the integrity if no one's ever gonna find out about it.
Yeah. Interesting. This one was interesting. I would love to talk to someone that really knows what the deal with this. Hopefully maybe we can find someone out there.
I'm one of my friends. He's like a bio major and he's super into the UFC. So I know he knows about like the steroids and the science
Yeah.
behind it. I don't know how much he knows about USADA, but I'll hit him up and see if he's down.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. A lot of questions on that. So again, I heard Rogan saying that. Again, oh, by the way, like the statement USADA made, I fuck with that. Throw some smoke out there. I fuck with that. Don't
They did. They didn't. They didn't pull any punches.
Yeah, I mess with that. Does Joe Rogan have a plan of what he wants, or like has he ever said like
I
what
think
he
he was
thinks?
just bullshitting, dude. I think that's what he does on his pod. I mean, it's in a 4-hour conversation. They're gonna say some stuff that, they're
Yeah.
just shooting the shit.
Um,
So, I mean, I've heard him say before that he thinks fighters should just be able to take steroids and they should strive for peak human capability. Whether he actually means that or he was just saying it in the moment, he was feeling some type of way. Maybe he was sipping.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But I don't
Interesting though,
agree
man.
with
But
that.
yeah, what a 24 hours. What a 24 hours. Um, kind of like the Nate Diaz and Kevin Holland Hamzat week, but not
Mhm.
so much. This is just huge. This is huge. I think this is one of the biggest turn of events in UFC history.
I think so too. This is up there with one of the craziest 24 hours when John had to pull out of UFC 200. That was probably up there.
Yeah.
When the Holland stuff was going on, the Usman Masvidal.
Yeah.
The fact that the main event and the co-main happened so close together, or they both fell apart so close together, just makes it obviously it wasn't like planned or anything like that. But it was just crazy how it all added up and how the news started to break right at the end of the Contender Series, like 30 minutes before Dana was going to have to go do a press conference.
Yeah.
It just all fell together so perfectly.
Yeah. But yeah, man, we just wanted to get out here and talk quickly. You guys, give you a quick recap, not a full pod, just a reaction. We couldn't wait. I needed to talk about it. I'm tired of texting about it. But yeah.
And some sharps I think they did fire on Volk, or Vegas just moved the lines, because last night I texted you that Volk was a plus 250 favorite. Now on that same book, he's a plus 200. So I don't know whether they just adjusted them since it was so early still.
I like a Islam and Hamzat parlay. I think that's the move.
I'm just not going to be rooting for either of them. I don't know if I can bet on them.
Yeah, man. What a day. Everyone, obviously, we always want to hear your reactions. Drop your reactions, but glad we can get this one in. So,
yes, sir.
Excited.
See you on Monday.
Yes, sir. We'll be back.
All right.